The web has lots of qualitative information like images or paragraphs of text, but there's also lots of quantitative information that's more suited to what we call a table. Ideally, tables should only ever be used for tabular data. Once you learn about tables, it might be tempting to use them for page layout, but you shouldn't ever do this unless you absolutely have to. Page layout should be a combination of well-structured HTML combined with CSS. There are a few exceptions to this, like when creating an HTML email, for example, but for now, you should only use tables for tabular data. So first, we're going to go ahead and create our table with an opening and closing table tag. And we're actually going to create quite a few tags here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add a border attribute to our table. And we'll set the border to a value of 1 or 1 pixel. That will allow us to see our table a lot more easily. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any lines dividing the table rows and cells. Next up is the table row element. So we'll create our first table row. And inside of there are 2 types of table cells that we can use. The first one is for data. So TD is a type of table cell that means table data. So we're going to just create a few rows of data here. So in this cell, I'm going to just list out some fruits, and we'll say oranges. We'll go ahead and copy and paste this table row, and we'll change oranges in this cell to say apples. And then we'll do one more, and we'll set this to say strawberries. So we'll save that out, switch over to the browser, and refresh the page. And as you can see, on our page, we now have a table with 3 rows, and inside each row is a table cell with oranges, apples, and strawberries. Now, I said there were 2 types of table cells. The second kind is a table header, or the TH tag. Let's go ahead and add that in. So we'll create a new row here up at the top, because these are table headers. And inside of our table headers, we'll type out fruits. So we'll save that, switch back to the browser, and refresh. And as you can see, a table header has the default styling of being centered and bolded. So you know that it is a table header. Of course, with CSS, you can apply whatever kind of styling you'd like. So let's create a second column next to this column. To do that, we actually just need to add more table cells inside of our rows. So to the right of fruits here, we'll go ahead and add another table header, and we'll call this one vegetables. And just so you can see what's going on in the browser, let's switch back and refresh. When you put 2 table headers, or really any kind of table cell right next to each other in the same table row, it will create a new column. You see, we're still in that same table row as fruits, and we've created another cell in the same row, so it will appear next to it. So we'll switch back, and we'll continue creating that column by visiting each table row and creating a new table cell. So we'll use the table data tag and add in carrots because that's a type of vegetable. We'll add in another vegetable here, broccoli, and then finally we'll add one more and we'll say asparagus. So we'll save that out, switch back to the browser and refresh. And as you can see, we've now filled in that vegetables column with carrots, broccoli, and asparagus. So let's try one last thing. Let's say we wanted to add another table cell to the vegetables column. We'll switch back and let's add in a table row, and we'll go ahead and create a table cell, and we'll say potatoes because this is a vegetable, and we'll switch back and refresh. And as you can see, that actually ended up in the fruits column. So how might we get that over to vegetables if we don't want to add anything to fruits? Well, we can actually just insert an empty table cell. So we'll go ahead and add that in. We don't have anything inside of this table cell. We'll save this out, switch back to the browser, and refresh. And as you can see, potatoes is now in the proper column. That about covers the basics of tables, but there's still more to learn. In the next video, we'll learn about a few more table elements and attributes.